Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 106 of the Inner Lenses. Our standard conversationalists, Brett Corcoran, Erica Nadeau, and myself, and we're joined by Sarah Bartell in place of Gabby. The reason for this is that Gabby will not be bullied by Google. She refuses to download Chrome to her Mac, and as a result, she can't get in. And honestly, Sarah, bless her, is whatever gen they're on now. I can't keep up with them. And she's just watched in, I'm going to say, parental good humour as Brett, Erica, and myself try and herd Gabby into the room, clueless, not sure why Riverside hates us, assuming that Riverside hates us when it might actually just be part of the grander conspiracy. So we are going to have a conversation about why people of a certain age struggle with technology, why that's so funny to people of a different age, and what that means in general for all of us. Boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Z, Gen B, whatever they are.
Okay, first of all, I think we need to establish that the computer technology illiterate it runs on a spectrum too among us Gen Xers, right? Like some of us are more savvy than others. The problem here with today, what started this conversation, is because Gabby refuses to be dictated to by anybody who's forcing us to do something in order to just participate or proceed in life. So there's that missing element of feeling like, the fuck do I have to do this for? Like, why are you're making me do something I don't want to do just so I can X, Y, or Z, right? So for this, our example here is to access Riverside, what we're using to record. So there's also that. And I'm wondering if there's a difference between Gen X and Gen Z also, where some of us Gen Xers are like, hell no, you're not telling me what to do. And I refuse to do this because no. And Gen Zers are just like, it's just technology and it changes all the time. And who cares? Just do what you have to do in order to proceed with life. So there's that element there. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like there's also that because I'm a Gen Xer and yeah, I get it. I get what do you mean I have to? Like, I have no choice in the matter. And I think that's annoying. I think that's part of the problem.
But I think there is not much difference when it comes to the generations. I think there's always somebody who's refusing, or a group of people who's refusing. And I think it's coming generally more to that direction that people begin to refuse such things. In this situation, I feel like it's the perfect example of trying to make something work, even if there's a simpler version. Like one could just switch to another platform, but one refuses because one thinks one has to make this work. So, and even if the other thing is worse, we refuse to go there because we want it to be perfect. And like trying to find the middle ground instead of like complaining. I feel like it was so funny to watch because it's the perfect example of why society is going nowhere, because people are like constantly like, this has to work. We have to make this work this way. And the other person said, no, I don't want it to go this way. Instead, just finding the gray place where you can just go. No matter if it's perfect, but just going somewhere.
That's a great point. And when you're talking about that, I'm thinking part of the frustration, possibly. I mean, ironically, I wish Gabby was here so she could talk about what it's been like for her trying to get in. But it's that confusion of, and Brett went through it too. When he first came on today, he couldn't get his background. And it's like, but wait, it worked every other time. Why suddenly now, without any warning that it's not going to work, is this not working? Like the technology just goes about doing whatever it needs to do in order to stay up to speed, and it updates and it renovates and it does all sorts of shit and doesn't tell you that it's doing anything. And you're just expected to log on to something you're so used to seeing a certain way, and then it's not. And then it throws. So what type of, how flexible in our thinking do we have to be in order to be able to adapt with this? Basically is the point that I'm seeing here. It's like nothing stays the same. Everything changes all the time. But when it comes to technology, we don't want, once we get used to it, it's like, you can't change now, because then I'm going to have to relearn or figure out a new way. And it becomes really annoying at sometimes.
There is an element, though, of, tinkering for tinkering's sake, I think, with tech. It doesn't matter whether it's Zoom or ChatGPT or Riverside. It's working fine for us, the end user, and they decide it's got to do something else. And so you come in today, like to Riverside, we've had a renovation, and it screwed up our ability to use it. Zoom, every now and then there's a Zoom update, and you get a bunch of grumpy people coming into a Zoom meeting because, bloody updates. And, just because there's a new version of a thing, I don't know what iteration ChatGPT is on now, but I don't feel it is as good as an earlier one. I think 4 or maybe 5. So just because a bunch of tech boffins get together and say, this would be brilliant, do they actually ever bother thinking about what it's like for the end user? General question. I mean, I'm sure many of our listeners actually work for Zoom, Google, or whoever owns ChatGPT. So
I think that the point is not, like, we could expand this to, like, it's not just technology, it's just progress in anything in general. Like, we think progress is always in a positive way, but is it always? Like, is it always just because we're progressing? Like, what are the negatives of progress? Sounds funny to say that, but technology is the easiest example, because when I'm at work and, like, Microsoft does its thing and it just updates whenever it wants to, it's like I'm staring at my desktop and I'm like, where's all my shit? Like, it moved everything around, and the progression of technology slows my progress down. So it's like, is this helpful or not? I don't understand how this is supposed to be helping me.
So I guess the question is it change for change sake, or is it change because it's valuable? Brett, what have you got?
And I think,
yeah.
No, I think what Erica just said reminds me that you have to think about, is it actually progression that is happening? Like, we say it's progressing, but is it really? Are we actually going somewhere here, or is it just keeping us from going anywhere because we're just repeating something that has been going on for years and years, and we're not getting out of the rut, out of the canyon?
Stuff that we've already done. Like, no, we're not doing it this way. Like, this happened back in and they'll ramble off whatever it is. And then you have the younger generations, they're like, well, let's just find the gray area. And which is fine, right? Always finding the gray area and moving along so you don't get hung up. But I feel like there's a part of the whole situation that there's somebody in the background or something in the background with an agenda. And if we could just get them to do this, and the older generations have already seen what the result is of doing that, and it didn't come out good, where the other generations haven't. And then there's also a part of, hey, you get to a point where, like, hey, all right, our generation may have fucked it all up, right? We may have ruined it all. So it's really in the younger generations to fix it, because a lot of the older generations are aging out. So, to bring the younger generation and the older generation together and have those conversations, I think is really important, because that would be a conversation, not a one-sided story. If everybody could be heard, would be the win, right? So if I'm talking and I'm trying to make a point and you're not seeing it, and I just keep pushing that point, like, no, like, they're not hearing it, or you find another way of saying it, or ask the other person, like, are you with me on this? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And just not agreeing and feeling into where they are with that certain piece. This technology is good, and the biggest problem with technology is they keep changing their privacy policies, and they keep holding on to information longer than they should, or using your information for advertising to you. So it makes it difficult.
Well, look who it is. Holy shit. She won the battle. She won the battle.
Can you hear me?
We hear you. Gabby, we're in a whole conversation based around technology, refusal to join with technology, Gen X, Gen Z, where's the golden mean? All thanks to your stance against Google.
So what was the workaround? What did you have to do in order to get in? What actually worked?
I'm on my old computer, as you can see, with a funny yellow tint, which is not a Mac, which is an Android and has Edge, and it works on Edge. Microsoft Edge. So that was the solution. It would not let me do it on the Mac unless I downloaded either Microsoft or Google. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Google Chrome. Either Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. And I refused. So I went on the gold computer.
Yeah, we started off talking about your adamant refusal of technology, and if there's a like what the gap possibly is between us of this generation and like Sarah's generation, and how they don't seem to have the same sort of issues with technology. The way we react to technology when technology is being an asshole, as I like to refer to it, like they have an attitude problem, technology. It flips me out. I get really irritated. I'm like annoyed. And Sarah, your generation, I have a son of the same generation. You guys just seem to flow really nice with it. Like there's really no issues with technology. You figure it out. You have like a nice symbiotic relationship with technology that I don't think our generation has. We didn't grow up with it the same way either.
I think there's an element of that. It's almost like we take it personally. It's adversarial. It's like,
totally,
this fucking machine's got it in for me.
Absolutely.
It's code. It can only do what it can do. Yeah, we know that there's a bigger picture with the whole, backhanders kind of, you're going to have to use Google if you want to use these softwares and things. But aside from that, which is basically business, I'm going to make it personal. I take it personally. When Alexa is fucking me about, which she definitely does, I call her on her bullshit.
But to my defense, it's not that I take it personal, but I had an experience once downloading Chrome. I downloaded Chrome twice in my life, and both times it caused havoc with my computer in the background. Things not working, causing me terrible trouble. Didn't get it solved until I got rid of Google Chrome again, and that's why I'm not using it. Because I had really, really bad experiences with it, and that's why I'm refusing downloading it. So it's actually out of experience. Not that I take it personal, but I just don't want the hassle with Chrome.
Dude, I take it personally 100%. I am like, this computer's a fucking asshole. Like I personify it 100%. I'm like, it's got an attitude problem and I'm sick of it shit kind of thing. Like, why can't you just do what I need you to do? I absolutely take it personally. So, and I really feel like there's a major difference there because I watch Jared interact with technology, zero issues. Like, it's like, and the patience that's required, like they just seem to be able to communicate with each other in a much different way. Technology and, you know, the younger generation, like you guys, Gen Z, has a relationship that I cannot understand. It's like if something doesn't go right, I'm instantly fix this and just make it work. Like, I do not have the tolerance or the patience for this crap.
I have a question for Sarah. Would you just have downloaded Chrome and said so be it?
No, probably not.
Good.
So I think, Erica, to say this very simply, for us, I think it's the technology. It's not real. It's not a person. So it's built by people. That means it can be managed by people. So for me, there is a solution. If I don't like the solution, then that's my problem. It's not the computer's problem, because the computer was created by us. So that's like jumping on something that isn't real. So I think it's more about like, yeah, there is a solution. There's always a solution with technology. But if you're willing to go for it, that's your thing.
I think I'm with Sarah on this point, because when that happened just there now to me, because this link worked for me for what? Almost over a year now, right? And I always got in on my Mac, no problem. Now suddenly this issue comes up, and straight away I go, oh, Riverside, the programmers, now probably have a back deal with Chrome or Google. They probably got paid just to make sure that people download Google Chrome, and I'm not having your new rules, and I'm not having it. So I actually have not a problem with the computer. I have a problem with the people in the background who run Riverside, if you're listening. Riverside people have a problem with you, not with the computer. They installed the thing that I have to download, I don't know, Edge or Chrome on my Mac. So I'm actually having an issue and a reaction to the people in the background. And my thing is, they got a brown envelope from Google now to do that straight away. There's where my resistance comes in, my rebellious streak.
Yeah, and I think this perfectly depicts the fact that we forget over time that behind all this technology are always people. So even like if you're outside, you're driving with your car, you say, oh, this damn car, but there are people in this car that are driving this car. So it's like behind everything that is said is technology, there are people, and they've created it, they're managing it. So like saying technology is on its own is not, it's not true, and there's like always some way to handle it, even though we think we can't.
So in fact, the problem is people are assholes.
No shit.
Too many people. I mean, let's boil down every conversation we've had for the last 100 and however many. It's all your fault. If you're listening, you are the problem.
It's always the person that's the problem behind the computer. But for me, thinking about all of this, but I had a problem with Riverside, however long ago that was, right, where I couldn't get in, and I was frustrated and annoyed and all of that, because something that works the last time you used it and then suddenly just doesn't work. It's really frustrating. But it's that belief of, I am not going to be taken out by this fucking computer right now to stop me from doing what I want to do. So you find the workaround. It just seems to me that whatever it is, if it's the mindset of it, that, and this is my experience of it, our generation, the older generation, gets more easily frustrated and annoyed than what seems to be the younger. Like, you guys are just like, yeah, okay, it's no big deal. Just do this. It probably means this. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I just want it to work the way that it just worked, right? I had to go in with an incognito window. I don't know why. I don't ask questions. It just works, and that's what I do. So and that's what I think is confusing too. We all have different workarounds. There are different things that we each are doing to get into the same place, which makes no sense to me at all. It's like everybody can find their own workaround that will fix the problem, which makes it even more confusing. It's like, what is the actual problem here? That we're all finding different ways to fix it. I don't know. Frustration is different, I think, in our generation than it is in you guys, because you guys you actually grew up with it, and it was like you've learned. It's been part of your life, your whole life, like learning how to navigate technology. For us, we sort of came into it, and we had to learn it in order to keep up with the world, right, and stay relevant. If we don't learn it, we're going to be left behind.
Is there sometimes, like, for you guys, like the point where you say, okay, I would love to go back and like not have all of this?
Yeah, sometimes I would like to not be attached to my phone and connected and have everybody with phones available, recording all sorts of like that constant connection and the constant immediacy of email and like responsiveness of having to be on all the time. It feels exhausting. It definitely does for me, because we know what it was like before. So you don't know the difference. So you don't know what you don't know. So for me, definitely, sometimes.
I don't have that, because I think it's a matter of boundaries again. We're back to boundaries. I mean, I sometimes leave my phone 5-6 hours in another room and I don't look at it. Full stop. And that's up to me. I'm not a slave to my phone, and I think I have that for my father. All these devices and everything we use should serve us, and if it doesn't serve me, I have the power to say, I'm not looking at my phone for the next 10 hours. And I can do that. I have no problem. My father, before mobile phones, I tell you a story, before mobile phones, when we still had only landlines, my father already got annoyed by the landline. Right? Because people rang, and in the old days, you didn't even know who rang. You had to answer the phone. There was no display. There was in times where there was no answering machine, right? You didn't even know who had rang. And my mom would jump up from dinner and would answer the phone. My father said, no, we're eating now. Leave that phone alone. And she said, but then I don't know who rang. He said, if it's important, to ring back. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a father and sister. When we eat dinner, we're not answering the phone, full stop. And my mom always did. And then he got annoyed, and she got annoyed. Because she wanted to know who's on the phone, right? But I looked at my dad and I said, he's actually right. I'm not a slave to the phone. And if it's important, to ring back. And I still have the same attitude. So life has become much easier with technology. There's no doubt about it. I enjoy technology. I love getting a new phone, even so I don't because of environmental reasons, I usually keep my phone for 10 years. But then when I get a new one, I'm really excited about it. I love technology, and I would not like to go back. So it's boundaries, I think, which are the problem. That we think we have to be on all the time. That we get a bad conscience if we, oh, that message came in 2 hours ago and I haven't answered. Oh my God. So what?
I'm not even, I meant like, and I'm talking like in a work format as well. Also, it's just the immediacy of responsiveness is definitely heightened with the levels of technology now. I love the fact that I can be on a call like this with people all over the world, and I can keep in touch with people this way. That is the best part of technology for me. We had a friend who moved to Mexico, and like video recording and just being able to do that is the best part of technology for me, I think, right? Like the connectedness of it. The expectancies of responsiveness is not, is sort of a downfall for me when it comes to how quick we can be responded to, and, you know, what might be expected, especially in work situations, and personal, right? But I also don't like, I've never been a fan of the way that you can have all these apps where you can track people, like parents do that with their kids, like Life 360 and stuff like that. I never did that. I never would do that. And I don't like that ability to be able to like know where someone is at all times either. Like that feels really invasive to me. And I never did it as a parent of a young, you know, when Jared was younger, when everybody around me was doing it and they all knew, and they would look, and my kid is here, my kid is here. And I'm like, that is not help. That was not going to be a friend to my own level of anxiety. So why would I invite more anxiety into my life, knowing where my kid is? Like, I just never did it. And I think that is a real negative to it. I think that has increased the level of anxiety in our culture. Like when we were kids, it was like, come home when it gets dark. Nobody knew what we were doing. It was a different time. Also, I get that, but it hasn't helped mental health, knowing what everybody's doing all the time either. I don't think. But
I think
sorry.
Go on, Gabby.
Yeah, I think the discussion needs to be around how do we use technology. And Erica, you're right. I mean, we have now technology where we have no choice, like me today, not to download Chrome. You buy a car, the car is tracked by the car company. They know at all times where the car was, through the history of the car now, because it's in there with the GPS, and you cannot switch it off. There's nothing you can do. That's actually, I find that, and that's probably my generation X, I find that intrusive. I find that Big Brother, George Orwell comes into my mind, right? And I don't know, Sarah, how do you see stuff like this where you don't have a choice?
I usually like to refuse it as well. So it's like if I don't get to have the choice, then I don't see the value in using it. I think personally, now that I went through the whole technology journey where I was doing the coaching stuff, I was learning with people around the globe. It was like my life was through technology possible. But switching to like learning craftsmanship, learning something real, was like my life completely changed because technology was not relevant at all anymore. And I think at this point, they became tools that I could use for like enabling something different. But I think this shows that the life you choose also can like enable you to either have a choice with technology or not. So, and I got to choose a life that allows me to use it, but I do not have to. So, but getting out of there was like you didn't see it while you were in there, while you were doing everything, because it was everything. Like doing everything on the computer, building a business, building some kind of world-changing things. It was like I have to do something. It was an obsession. So, but just getting a break from that shows you like how crazy and useless it actually is, because you don't know, it's not real. It's not, when you're really building something in this world, like I work with leather, so it's like, yeah, okay, if I build a saddle, this is here. I didn't build this in the computer. So, and before it's like a huge shift that I went through myself. So when I think of technology, I now always want to have the choice.
It seems to me that there's a couple of things here. Erica asked the question earlier, is it about mindset? And I think the answer has to be yes, because if you want to use technology and accept that it just is, it's a machine, it can only do things within certain parameters, and that's the way you use it. Don't take things personally, which is one of the 4 agreements. Then there's another level, which is like the invasive. People used to talk in the UK about we're not having national identity cards, and yet we are never, not frequently, more than a meter away from something that can be tracked to within a meter and has got all of our biometric data on it. And we're quite happy to have that. Nobody ever says, I'm not having a smartphone because it's an identity card. And you've got the move towards centralized banking and all that kind of stuff. So there's another level of technology which maybe has a bit of a darker thing going on for it. And then there's the part of that we've had before and we've talked about before, the golden days of our youths when, we were randomly open to paedophiles and nobody knew where we were or how to get hold of us. But that was good. That was better than our parents tracking us. So there's all manner of levels that we can engage with technology. And Gabby made the very valid point that we need our own personal boundaries. And if we create robust boundaries that we truly understand in the other ways that we use our awareness and discernment, then it can't really be more invasive than we allow it to be, which seems to be true for your generation, Sarah, maybe a little bit more readily than ours. Perhaps because we were carried along with the wave of, you've got to have the next smartphone and you've got to have this and that. And even Gabby's example, being a slave to the landline now would be sort of anathema to most of us. And yet we feel so naked if we go out without our mobile phone. Like, how will I survive? So, closing thoughts on, is this a generational thing? Is it a conspiracy thing? is it just our own bad temperaments?
I think it's a combination of maybe all of it. Maybe our own bad temperaments first. I'm speaking of myself, like my low tolerance to like frustrate, like just work, right? But what I'm getting is that, like we touched on it already, like it's all there for me to decide what works for me and what doesn't work for me and how I want to use certain parts of it. But I definitely, it's something to consider. I don't like the forced changes, right? Like what we're talking about today. And I'm thinking about my own phone. I keep getting this message that my text messaging is going to switch from whatever to whatever. I don't even know what it's saying. I ignore it every time the message comes up because I'm irritated by it. But it's an inevitable change that's going to happen. And I don't like the feeling of being forced to change before I'm actually ready to change. And I find it's really interesting for me to like come to that realization, because how does that apply to my life in general, right? It's like I'm being forced to fucking change something that I'm not ready to really change, but in the end, I go with the change and it's fine. So there's a piece of having to relearn and maybe like feeling like I don't know enough that leads to the frustration, especially with technology, right? Because if it's changing and I don't know it, I'm extra frustrated. And then I have to relearn or feel like I don't know something. And I don't like that. It's personal point. But yeah, pros and cons of technology. I appreciate the availability of it, but I'm choosing how I want to use it and how I want to react to it. Work in progress.
Yeah, I guess I have my boundaries, and I'm working on different parts of technology, like my texting. Everybody says I'm a bad responder on texting. I'm like, well, yeah, because I hate texting. Like, what don't you understand? It's difficult because for me, I can't have the emotion. People take the words for exactly what they are, or it's open for their interpretation of the writing. Where a phone, you understand the interpretation by my voice and by what I'm saying, and you can hear it. Where text, if they're in a bad mood and you say something like, I can't believe they just said that. And they get all upset with you, and you're like, said what? Like, I just really agreed with XYZ, or it's yeah, I'm not good with social media. I'm not good with texting, and I don't have to be, because I don't have to use it all. So, and that's the whole thing. Like, people get mad at me, and I'm like, why are you mad at me? I'm just not a texter. Like, I have my reasons. So I'll just leave it there with that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a mixture of everything as well. And there is a lot we have control over. There is a lot of we can do personally, not to be stressed by technology, which we probably don't even think about. But there is certain stuff about technology where we don't know what's going on in the background and where we are forced into. I mean, this computer I have right now here is not that old, but I bought a Mac because each time we did an update with Microsoft, something went wrong. Sometimes the microphone wasn't working, then it was working, it was pain. And all stuff in the background I have no control over because they're done automatically. Right? So I learned to uninstall stuff. But, I'm going like, why are you creating stuff which causes more problems? And then we don't know what's going on in the background, like with all the surveillance cameras. Where is the data they're getting stored? What's happening? To push away from cash to only online paying, so everything is online. And I think it's probably this kind of underlying fear, because the world seems to be getting more fearful every year, and I think this is contributing because we don't know what's happening in the background. It does feel like these big tech companies and billionaires and now a trillionaire kind of starting running the world in the background, and we have absolutely no idea anymore what's even going on. We don't know. Right? I'm almost going to this old kind of 70s thing with the hippies where, like, when they said let's just get out of here, let's just refuse, have a little caravan somewhere in the forest and just refuse everything. Sometimes I feel like that because I think if that's why the fear is going up, because we don't know anymore, or at least it feels like it, what's really going on in the background. So I find it as an interesting subject. Yeah. So that's, I think, my main takeaway. And also we have to find ways to control those things. I mean, France just brought out a law that employers cannot contact the employees from Friday evening 5 o'clock until Monday morning.
Which is great if you don't happen to work the weekend shift. But
yeah, for people who have a normal 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, the employer is not allowed to contact them over the weekend and annoy them with work shit when they're supposed to be off.
Good. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to be totally judgmental. I'm going to label it. I'm going to be opinionated. Good. We will be back without labels, judgments, or opinions, possibly in an episode in the not too distant future. See you all soon.